So this is a topic that's somewhat near and dear to my heart, lifelong tech, and I think it's extremely important to discuss this. This market is, I would not say it's untapped. I would say it's potentially not anywhere near its peak, nor is it figured out. And this session will really help, I hope, drive home the need for good UI, the need for good design, and not only the need for that, but the challenges around that, because we talk about all of these good things and we create these beautiful devices and they're not being used, and what the heck is the problem? So we have a really fun announcement, or what I think is a good announcement, towards the end of this session. But in the meantime, I really want to introduce this panel, this session. So I'm going to start with our moderator, Amy O'Connor, who's Vice President and Editorial Director, dry mouth, at Everyday Health. And if you look on the back of your programs, we have our Everyday Health Innovation for Awards, Awards for Innovation that will be opening up, I think, in September, but it's a little teaser for you to check it out. And a fun fact about Amy: her first job in health journalism was photographing organ transplant surgeons for a medical school. Okay, and now she's going to be interviewing people. This is awesome. Okay.
Thank you. I did see some of the surgeries, but I had to photograph the surgeons for a brochure. They weren't very happy about it. Hi, everyone. As someone who works for a digital health and wellness website, I know firsthand how urgent health issues are to the aging consumer. There are 100 million people over 50, and many of them are living with at least one condition or wellness challenge that can be better managed with technology. The problem is flawed design shuts many older adults out. A recent study by Pew researchers finds that while most seniors have a positive view of digital tools and services and believe that technology offers direct benefits to their personal health, people over 65 lag far behind the general population in tech adoption. Many also report feeling disconnected physically and psychologically from the world of digital health technology. And that's the disconnect that where our panelists see a huge opportunity. To the right, we have Sanjay Kurhana. He's a director of thought leadership for the AARP, where he leads health innovation efforts addressing the needs of people over 50. Next, we have Eric Bazuk, a senior interaction designer at Frog Design, working out of the Austin studio, and he's the creative lead for Aging by Design. And to my right, we have Jeff McCowa. He's a senior strategic advisor, thought leadership at AARP, where he helped launch and now co-manages the Innovations 50 Plus initiative. And Jeff, my first question is for you. Okay. The AARP's mission is to enhance the quality of life for all as we age, and that sounds great. But can you talk a little bit about how Innovation 50 Plus fits into that mission and how AARP got into the tech startup business?
Sure, absolutely. It's great to be here. Thank you. Thanks, Jill. So the Innovation 50 Plus program really came out from some strategy work that had been done internally with AARP, where we approached and we analyzed the different ways that we're affecting and trying to achieve our social mission. And so we're very powerful and effective at moving policy at the federal, state, and local levels. We bring incredible life-changing benefits and products to our members through our partner-provider relationships. But what's something we realized we didn't do, and my boss, Julie Holtzman, and I decided was we're not effectively and in a structured manner working with the private sector, the one area within society, the economy, that has unlimited resources in a certain sense, and if motivated for the right reasons, incredible drive that get into everyday situations of people's lives. And so from that, we thought, where could we have the most impact with our huge team of 2 people plus Sanjay, when he came on a year or so later, where could we make the largest impact? And we thought technology was an interesting space. We felt this population was underserved or ignored. And so we started going to a lot of conferences, meeting a lot of smart people, and trying to demonstrate in the vocabulary of the business community the opportunities around what we call the longevity economy, which is a $3.2 trillion economy around the products and services that are related to people aging in America.
$3.2 trillion in spending opportunities?
Yeah.
Great. My next question's for Eric, and I have to admit, Eric, when I met you, I was surprised that aging for seniors was going to be one of your specialties, because I don't think you're exactly in that segment. So how did Frog get into the aging market, and what attracted you personally to it as a designer?
So I think the market opportunity is massive, as we've talked about a lot already today, and as everyone's identified. So that was obviously a driving force. But then looking at the market and what was currently being offered, we quickly saw that a lot of it wasn't really hitting the mark, and it wasn't really having the type of impact that some of these technologies could be having on senior and aging populations. So we wanted to see what was the problem here, what was really going to be a more impactful way to approach this. And empathy is something that was really core to everything we do at Frog in terms of design. As a starting off point, you have to go and understand what people's problems are and what their challenges are, and then design for those. And so we, a small group of us at the Austin studio, me and a few others, just this topic really resonated with us because we all had, familial relationships, like grandparents or great aunts or uncles or something who were aging or elderly and were facing similar challenges. And so it was really empathy on our side too that brought us all together and say, okay, let's figure this out, So we did a little research study in the Austin area. We interviewed a bunch of seniors. They invited us to their house. They gave us tea and biscuits, and we got to get a sense of what they do and where they live.
And you gave them your phone and said, what do you think of this?
Yeah, exactly. Just have frank conversations about hey, do you have an iPad? Did you see it? This is valuable to you, or is this something you think is just kind of silly that your kids gave you and forced you to use or whatever, And out of those really frank discussions came a lot of interesting insights about how seniors are choosing to interface with technology, what is useful to them, and what is kind of seeing as superfluous to them, as something they don't really see the value to. And so that was really the starting point for our design exercises for Aging by Design.
And Sanjay, you're someone who deals directly with entrepreneurs. How do you encourage startups to focus on the aging population and encourage young entrepreneurs that this is the space they need to be in?
Good question. We spend a lot of time talking to the industry, talking to smart people out there who are building products for our demographic. But at the same time, we hear a lot of entrepreneurs coming out from a point of passion, right? They come in hey, I know my grandmother fell. I came up with this big-ass watch that no one wants to wear. and we're this is good. There's a market. We understand. We want to be compassionate. But at the end of the day, I think it's, as a wise man said, not every idea warrants a startup. Just because it's an idea doesn't mean it's a company. Remember that, number one. Secondly, make sure passion is good. It gets you out of bed and gets you to build a product, okay? And a product is key. If you don't have enough passion, you don't have product, but never forget where the money is. And that's where we really have been spending a lot of our time in the first year of our operations, have been focusing on educating the marketplace as to where's the money. It's, the longevity economy, as we call it, is the largest powerhouse in the U.S. economy. It fuels about over $7.1 trillion in economic activity by the 50 plus. And out of that, healthcare is about 1.6 trillion. These are 100 plus, 50 plus consumers that generate about 230 million worth of CPG spend. Total, about 49% of all sales in the U.S. are by this demographic. 80% of the net worth is there. So when we shine the light on where the money is, consumers actually who are building for the hipster crowd start saying, maybe there is a product that I'm building actually can be address a larger demographic. And we've got examples of companies. Wello is a company, a very good example, Bay Area company that was not focusing on this demographic. They had a great two-way platform for working out with trainers in their off hours, the remnant inventory in the daytime. They have a marketplace. They never figured that there was a market for the 50 plus. And we actually helped them, I would love to take some credit for that, to focus the light on the 50 plus. And they recently got acquired by Weight Watchers. So there are companies that, need to be shown the light where the market is, and at the same time, build products with passion, but never forget, chase the money.
Right. That's a great point. So Jeff and Eric, I wanted to ask you about some of the user testing you've done with seniors and what you're hearing from consumers directly. Where do technology products mostly miss the mark when they're trying to reach an older audience, and what feedback do you hear from people that you've worked with directly?
Do you want me to jump in first? You go. So one that really stands out in my mind is we spoke to a number of seniors who, were having some mobility challenges and they needed, some sort of walking assistance. And a number of ones we spoke to had hiking poles, like as if they were climbing Everest or something. And this is what they wanted to use because it didn't have that kind of stigmatizing image that a cane has. It's kind of like an icon for old and debilitated, right? And they don't want to be associated with that. So much of what their self-perception and identity has to do with is being young and youthful and active. And the minute they start adopting these kind of stigmatizing objects, that they feel like that really marginalizes them in a certain way. And so I think they just want to be involved and be as active as possible and not be a part of things that make them look old.
How about frustrations with products, though?
Actually, can I build on that?
Yeah,
before we move on?
please.
Just because, we all remember, and in some ways it's a sign of a great ad, but in some ways it's, in this particular case, it's terrible. I've fallen, I can't get up,
Yes,
lifeline,
yes.
button, PERS, which we call in the industry, the personal emergency response systems devices. People don't want to wear those. I mean, even Verizon has a very capable product, but their first iteration of it was a big red thing, pendant that kind of hung, and you were like, Flavor Flav, I am old, and it's and I'm about to fall down and I need help. So you've got to come up with elegance. People don't want to be called out. I'm going gray. I'm not particularly psyched about it, so I haven't made the leap to the Grecian formula yet. But there are things within our culture that you don't want to emphasize to position yourself as frail or needing help. We value independence very greatly in our culture. So to the extent that design can overcome and if not hide, at least put into the background or present a different, more functional element to a device or to a service, those will resonate better with folks than something that doesn't.
And how about giving personal information? In user testing, we've done it Everyday Health. The older population, I think that's where we get to the notion of trust. They maybe trust a little bit less because they maybe been taken advantage of. They've had technology that maybe took an email that they didn't mean to give them. Are they less likely to give up personal information, send in data?
We've tested some products at our, and the only data point we can give you is we put entrepreneurs in front of consumers. So that's our currency to the market, is we bring a voice of the customer to the entrepreneurs. And our data point of the point that you raised is we've had consumers interact directly with the entrepreneurs, and AARP stands out of that equation. And just to observe the experience and observe the interaction between a buyer and seller, we found that as long as the product is relevant and solves a real problem, that issue is less relevant. So examples, we've demonstrated products that solve Parkinson's tremor. We've had products that do things of privacy in nature, so it'd be bill reconciliation. I'll throw an example, co-patient. Again, I think it's a West Coast Oregon company that build a reconciliation product, bill reconciliation. You send them all your bills, they will solve it, settle for it, and they'll save you money, and then they get a percentage of the revenue. Great problem in the market. They bring in a solution. They know they're taking your records, they're taking your claims. Consumers didn't have the problem because the value exchange was very clear. I give you information, you give me value, I give you savings. So it depends on the problem you're solving.
Yeah, it's a real concern. I hate to say it, but in some ways that population's aging out, and as younger people move into this demographic, we're all used to whether we realize it or not, we all know that the credit card companies know everything that we do. If you're on the East Coast and you're using Easy Pass, we know that New Jersey State Transit Authority knows how fast you're going between point A and point B, and I think
too much Sopranos,
unless you use cash, yeah. So I think it just in general, people are becoming more comfortable with information sharing. One thing I've often heard references, if you were taking your garbage out and it was full of personal, your financial statements or your personal health records, and it fell onto your driveway and sat there for a day, what would you be more upset about? And almost 90% of the time, people would be more worried about people knowing about our financial status than our health status. And I think even going forward, as ACA goes through and pre-existing conditions, restrictions on plans and pricing are less of a barrier, I think people will be even more open with their data.
So Jeff, you've called the senior market the only growth market, which may or may not be accurate, but a hugely underserved
It's
market.
a good headline, though.
Yeah, but I like it.
Jody came up with that one.
It's a hugely underserved market, which is absolutely true. What would you say to innovators who want to break into the aging market? How do they get started thinking about this opportunity?
Well, I mean, that's in some ways been our main focus for the last 3 years, the focus of the Thought Leadership Group. And so we're here to help. We've tried to, in our program, remove barriers that would take anybody from being successful, to remove excuses for anyone saying they're not successful in serving this market. So on our website, aarp.org/50+ insights, 50+ insights, it rolls off the tongue. You can find a series of different research reports. One of them is here, where we outline and actually give a taxonomy of 9 different areas of opportunities and areas of innovation around health and wellness and consumer spend in the 50+. But I think, again, to Sanjay's earlier point, there's really 2 ways to come at this. One is you've had a personal experience and you're impassioned to build a solution. Or 2, you identify the market opportunities, and hopefully with some more research and talking to and we can introduce entrepreneurs that are interested in this space to investors that have raised their hand to us and created relationships with us, that they're willing to look at this as an investment space. But it all comes back to really, you've got to have a good product, and whether it's a good product for the 50+ or one that's for everybody, and you're pivoting to make it more inclusive of the 50+, it comes back to having a real value proposition.
So Eric, how do you test a product or a concept that's for an aging market? Is it different than for a mass market?
In my experience, we just come up with prototypes and we bring them down and sit them down next to the people who ideally were the ones that helped us develop the concept in the first place. And we just say, hey, is this what you're thinking? Is this something that would work for you? Is this like an idea that you would pay for, maybe? And then that's usually how we figure it out. And they usually give us some insight, or it's like, this is good, but this shouldn't be like that, or it'd be awesome if it also did this.
And do you segment that population? People in their 50s and 60s would be in one group, and people over 65 in another group?
We find it's difficult for seniors to segment them by like decade or something, that everyone in their 50s does this, and everyone in their 60s does this. Like, it's much more varied across. It's very spectral, because some people in their 90s are like super active and independent and don't need much assistance, whereas some people in their 50s are like, maybe very obese or have a lot of issues with mobility or whatever that someone maybe later on would typically have. So we found it's not so useful to categorize it just strictly by age, but much more by ability and ability level.
Yeah, just to add to that, and something that we've learned from Frog itself is when you design for this demographic, especially that the life stages change either in time or episodic. Right? You cannot segment them by age, because that's the biggest faux pas in the market, is they decide, hey, 50 to 64 assumes X. It's about life stages and it's about archetypes. And that's really where design thinking needs to be integrated for entrepreneurs to start thinking about not designing by age segment, design by condition, whether it's episodic or linear time-based. It's about life stages. It cannot emphasize enough.
So, Sanjay, you're thinking a lot about the different areas of opportunity in the life stages for the over 50 population. And I just wanted to ask you where the marketplace was headed, and then maybe we can show one of the examples of one of the designs that we have here live.
Sure. There are several. We've got 9 areas of health that we have a thesis around. It's no rocket science. It's everything from remote health to vital signs monitoring to physical fitness, emotional health. The one area that I'm a big fan of is called aging with vitality. It's basically good, healthy aid tools that help you age, gracefully. And I choose those words very carefully because we've got a fundamental problem of messaging in the market. We've really stigmatized aging. We know there's no fun in aging, but why make it so obvious and derogatory? It's like aging in place. First of all, that's a term we like to strike out from the taxonomy.
What don't you like about it?
It's analogous to a rotting plant. I mean, so when we talk about where's innovation happening in terms of design, and I'll bring it back to, since this is about a design panel, I sort of see 4 large categories of good design. One is companies that are creating new markets. And Clear here, I'm going to call them up, are really creating a new category in the market. They're really doing what Sonicare did for dental hygiene. They're trying to come up with a product that is going to do it for the ear. No player in the market today is thinking in that form of creating a new market, okay? So companies with good design creating new markets. The other one is a set of companies that are disrupting existing economies. Example, Odicus is a hearing aid, well-designed product that's actually creating a new business model and disrupting the audiologist out of the equation and bringing a $2,000 price point product down to sub $500. That's changing, taking away stigma and cost are the lowest barrier. So existing very old stodgy market and bringing new thinking into that. Lively is another one, changing the perception of the PERS market by bringing human intelligence, human compassion into it. The third category is companies that more so in the aging with vitality category are companies that are solving real niche problems well. When I say niche, I don't mean in a derogatory, I mean actually in a very positive way. They're solving things really well. Things like lift labs, anti-tremor compensation, done a super well job for a sizable market. I wouldn't say as big as obesity or diabetes, but still a big market. Co-patient, as I mentioned earlier, solving real problems with real solutions. The fourth one, I think I'm very excited because it represents really AARP's Achilles heel, which is caregiving, right? So we feel there are companies that are coming up with new platforms that are really energizing the market with how do we really bring a better, to Eric's point.
Why is it the Achilles heel, though?
Because it's a very fragmented market, and it so far has been less about digital health. It's been more about marketplace services, finding a caregiver, finding like Angie's List.
Got it,
But there
okay.
are not as much digital tools, and no one's really made that market. There's no big player. And I think there are a couple of products there. One is Breezy, and the other one's Caretaker. That's bringing new community-based platforms for social engagement. Back to Eric's point, a lot of the problem here is about social engagement. How do I create a compassionate, easy digital platform for connecting family to caregivers, whether it's a formal caregiver or an informal caregiver? So that's sort of
Because more and more older people are living apart from their families,
Yes.
even geographically, very separate, right?
Right.
And they'd prefer to stay in.
They do, obviously.
Yeah.
I mean,
They don't want to move in with
that's
their
where the
kids.
term aging in place
Right.
came in, rotting plant. But
Right.
so that this is
They
probably
want
a
to
great
stay in
place.
their communities with their friends.
Yes, and you want the caregiver, me, taking care of my mom's digital needs, but I want to be able to the Geek Squad that can manage that for her, so I'm not expecting her to figure out when to do the next iOS upgrade or to
Right.
figure out how to, tell mom to use WhatsApp because that's the best way to stay connected with the family. That caregiver needs to be involved in this digital tool experience. So I think this is probably a good segue for us to get
Yeah.
a couple companies I'd love
Definitely.
to introduce to the crowd. We've got, come on over, Chris. Chris represents a company called Wheel, and they recently presented at AARP event in Boston, and I wish I had a video to show you, but it's spectacular. I mean, Jeff almost killed somebody driving this machine, but take it away.
Yeah, so I'm Chris Koyama, Marketing Director from Will. I'm glad I'm here today because our mission actually fits really well with what you guys have been talking about getting rid of stigma. And there's this negative stigma attached to personal mobility devices that it's usually for people who are ill or people who are weak. And we think, and we really truly believe through good design and advanced technology, we can change that perception that people have towards personal mobility devices. To put it in context, we have a short 1-minute video. So please go ahead and run that.
When I first saw Will, I was amazed by its design. I'd never seen anything like it before, and I could immediately tell that the way people looked at me was different.
What I really like about riding wheels is it's a really enjoyable experience. It's fun, it's fast, and it's also super smooth at the same time.
Unlike other devices that are more cumbersome and larger, the wheel is compact, agile, and intuitive. Operations very simple.
In social settings, it's sort of become an extension of myself.
People come up not to ask me if I need help, but because they want to talk to me, and also to talk about the chair. Wheel allows me to function in my active lifestyle without having to think about it. I just do it.
Our goal at Will is to provide independence and start to transportation.
So what I wanted to do with this video is put it in context that there's 3 major people who we want to talk to. The abled people, also the disabled community, and then the senior community, and that it's cool for everybody. We have a unique front wheel, which is an Omni Wheel. Some people call it the all-directional wheel. It lets you turn on the spot, so it glides sideways. And I want to show you guys really quickly how it works. So notice I'm in a really tight spot, and it doesn't really bother me too much because I have a really tight turning radius. And you know, if you know anybody in a power chair or any kind of mobility devices, you'll notice how bulky and large it is. And quite frankly, it's not the best good-looking device out in the market. So we're trying to really focus on design, make people feel a little bit more confident about themselves when they're in a mobility device. And like Sandy, the older lady in the video said, it's not too much about people looking at your device, but you want people to look at you. And even start a conversation because you have a cool device. Just like people wear cool shoes. Hey, cool shoes, you know, conversation starts like that. Why can that happen with a device like this? So that's kind of what Will's about, trying to change people's perception about personal mobility devices.
And you guys are on Kickstarter. You just launched your
And
Kickstarter
yep,
campaign.
so yeah, do a real quick plug. We're on Kickstarter. We just launched. So please support us on Kickstarter. Search Will, W-H-I-L-L.
So Chris, it's not available yet in the marketplace, right?
Right, we're taking pre-orders. We're polishing up the hardware right now. We're 90% there. We're adding a software integration to the device. It's going to be operational on your iPhone via Bluetooth. So what that can do is add remote control your device. Imagine if you have a hard time walking, you want the device to come to you, not you going up to the device. So imagine you waking up in the bed, you want the device to come to you, so you can remotely control the device to come to you. The other advantage is you can have an ultimate personalization of the settings. So some people want acceleration faster than others, or even parents, or even us.
For me, you should limit how
For
fast
you,
it goes.
yeah, especially, we can limit the maximum speed the device goes. So imagine if your grandma's, you know, a little unstable with their arm, you want to set the maximum speed a little bit slower so she can be safe.
And Chris, what's the price point compared to a traditional wheelchair?
All right, so we're marketing this at $9,500, which is relatively competitive. Because when you look at other power chairs, for example, they range from $10,000 to $30,000. So we're actually pretty competitive.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Can we see Clear Ear too?
Sure. I'd love to. This is one of my favorite products because I cannot wait to get one. Absolutely. And Lily Trong comes from a very interesting background out of Stanford, so she's probably one of those entrepreneurs that are chasing the money, and I really have to give kudos for that one. Take it away.
Wonderful. Okay. So I have a few slides over here. So our company is called Clear Ear, and in the early days, we started as a medical device company. So we were always looking at the 50-plus population, and we were really targeting, observing hearing aid patients and seeing what kind of challenges that they had. So we stumbled across and we found out that earwax is a huge problem for the 50-plus population. And it's really no joke. So as you age, your earwax consistency actually changes. So because it's harder, it's much more likely to cause a buildup. And when this happens, you have hearing loss, ringing in your ears, and a lot of ear pain. And so, originally we developed a medical device for the audiologists who are doing hearing aid placements to clean out the wax before placing the hearing aid. But as we listened to our customers, we realized that over the past 3 years that every time patients would ask, well, I don't really want to go to the doctor's office. Can I just do this at home? And we kept on hearing, can I do this at home? Can I do this at home? And so in addition to launching a medical device product for the clinical space, it was a natural progression into developing a consumer home care solution as we were listening to our customers. And that's really how we got connected to the AARP. So what we realized is that the most beloved way of removing earwax is actually the Q-tip, and there's a lack of awareness about the problems that it actually causes. So it pushes wax further in. A lot of times people will bump their elbow and puncture an eardrum. It actually makes your ears itchier because you're scratching it and it dries it, and then it's a cycle where you continue to get itchier. And of course, we had a statistic that 25 billion Q-tips are used every year and thrown away. So that's a lot of pollution into our environment today. So from our customer feedback, we have two products. One which is the Odor Tip, which is a prototype that you see here, and that's an alternative to the Q-tip. So what we're not trying to do is change user behavior, and so we're offering a solution that that looks just like a Q-tip but has the safety features, so you're not going to end up in the hospital for the eardrum damage. So what we have is well, I'll show the video later there, but we have a safety feature where it'll prevent the tip from going too far in, and then you automate the procedure by pressing the button, and the special corkscrew design actually pulls the earwax out instead of pushing it further in. And so it's an automated Q-tip. And then for the hearing aid patients who actually, there's a subset of patients who actually have excessive earwax buildup, and so they actually get their ears professionally cleaned twice a year, doing a procedure called irrigation. And so what we tried to do was take all the complications that come from that, which include that the water is not the right temperature, and so it causes dizziness for them. The water jets are directed at their eardrums, so that's not as comfortable. So what we try to do is take that procedure, take it out of the office so they can come home and prevent that buildup so they don't end up in the doctor's office. And we we automate everything, because when we want the design, kind of speaking to design, we wanted to take the thinking out of the process so that they can click a button, the water heats up to body temperature, it's ready to go, and this water jets will spray off to the sides of the ear canal and remove the wax. So I'll show you here, oopsies, the two videos of our products. And so once again, the TEC, the Odor Tip is for if you don't get earplugs, and if you do, then you use the TEC Home for deep cleaning. So we have the soft, flexible tip instead of the bull cotton tip that comes in. The blue flexible seal is shaped in a way that it stops the tip from going too far in, so you're only staying in the outer 1/3 of your ear canal. You press the button, and like an Archimedes screw, the tip spins and pulls out the wax. Then for those who have the professional cleaning, instead of going to the doctor's office, you can do this at home, so you can save your time and hang out with your grandchildren. You fill up the water, fill it in, and really we try to get the inspiration from an electronic toothbrush. So you fill in a tip here. The water sprays to the sides of the ear canal instead of a single jet. You insert into the ear canal, click the button, and the water jets will go off to the sides of the ear canal, hit the back of the eardrum, suction out, and instead of today, if you see today's traditional procedure, if you are going into the doctor's office, the patient actually has to wear a cap and catch the water as it's coming out because they're using a metal syringe. So we think that this is a much more pleasant way to do ear cleanings. And all the debris is collected on the left-hand side. You throw it in the trash, and now you're ready to enjoy the rest of your day.
Hey, Lily, did your mom and dad try it?
My mom is actually, so part of the inspiration for this company is that my mom is actually deaf in one of her ears. And so, she's used our clinical product, which is uses the same tip as what we have on the consumer one. So these two products.
And she likes it? Thumbs up? She likes it?
Yeah, she did. And then we have, I guess, and we are also kicking off our Indiegogo campaign to get beta users for these consumer products, because we think getting that feedback in the early days is a really important aspect. And so I have the link on that last slide, and if we can get help in terms of spreading the word, we'd really appreciate it.
Great.
Well, quick question. I mean, this is a big market. You got about over 48 million Americans that have hearing loss issue. Mm-hmm. Is the market bigger than that? Because it's people like Jeff and I who probably may want to just clean their ears regularly.
So I wanted you to do it in Boston.
Not when you're driving that.
While I'm driving the wheel, yeah.
So how do you message to this big market? Because obviously you've got a comp in the market. You've got Sonicare that's built a brand, big company, big dollars to create an iconic product. So a product like this, you're going to be challenged with a lot of, how do you get to scale, and how do you get a message that is different and becomes a aspirational product? Not aspirational, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And everybody buys a Sonicare because it sells itself.
Yeah.
So how do you do that? You've got a marketing challenge. You've got a great product, but you've got a marketing challenge with a big market to address.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think one of the things that, since we're such a smart startup company, that we want to stay very, very focused in the early days. And so we really want to leverage that we're a clinical brand, that we built this in collaboration with doctors, with that feedback. And so we want to build that trust with the early customers. So we're relying in the early days of having the clinical product that is out there with the audiologists and having these doctors recommend to their, their potential users that, since you have so much of a buildup, there is this new home care solution, and over time building that trust so that eventually it can scale.
Okay, we only have a few minutes left, and I wanted to open it up to questions for the entrepreneurs or the panelists.
That's a great product. Have you guys looked at it in the pediatric market? Because as a former PZR doc, I would have killed for that.
Yeah, actually, so that's, the wonderful thing about this need is that it really is, you say you start off designing for the 50 plus, but actually it does apply, and it really is about design for all. Earwax impaction is actually much more common in children as well, so 1 in 10 versus 1 in 3 for the elderly. And so we are looking at making smaller tips so that they can fit into the small ear canals.
Hi, I was just wondering if you saw a possible conflict of interest between the doctor who's trying this out and then recommending it, because he's going to lose all that business, the walk-in business.
Yeah, well, so what we're, so the clinical unit doesn't just do earwax removal, and so they're buying that product. When that patient's coming into the audiologist, they're getting a hearing aid fit as well. So really, from a business perspective, they're much more interested in doing that higher value procedure, and not being able to remove the earwax and having to refer out is right now their barrier. So if their patients could come in and they don't have to spend 30 minutes to clean their ears and they can just start doing their work, I think they'd be it'd be a much more efficient system. So luckily for this particular clinical need that we're solving, there are a lot of synergies where we're not really taking away a procedure that they are trying to cling on to.
Right on time.
All right. Well, thank you so much. This is a fantastic
Yeah, this is great, and I have a little...
Go ahead.
I wanted to invite Robin Raskin up on stage real quick. So I'll introduce you. So we have an exciting announcement today, and I'm going to introduce you to Robin Raskin. Robin Raskin, God brought me in like 5 years ago, and can't get rid of me. And she's the founder, creator of Living in Digital Times, and Living in Digital Times has really taken different lifestyles and parts of, including digital health and moms and education, and kind of almost siloed them for CES. CES used to be one giant cluster, you know what, and and so anyway, she did an incredible job. So I'm gonna hand it over to her.
Thank you. So, fun fact, CES is the world's largest consumer electronics show. Started 1967 in New York, not Las Vegas, and it was really an audio offshoot of basically cables. Fast forward over the years, CES has been the introductory place for the VCR, the Blu-ray, the compact disc, the Xbox. But my background was journalism, so I was the editor of PC Magazine, but I had a great relationship with CES, and about 7 years ago I said to them, it's getting to the point nobody really cares if it's a bigger screen or a smaller chip. We need products in a context of a lifestyle, and that will help everybody understand the markets that they're going after and how to create the markets that they need, and let us look at this sea change that's happening in consumer electronics. And Gary Shapiro and the CEA were incredibly generous and said, here, start with a little thing about kids. We started with kids in technology. We moved on to moms in technology. We were blessed enough to find Jill Gilbert and say, can you deal with digital health? And we do an education show, we do sports and fitness, we do fun events like a fashion show that shows off wearable technology, a last gadget standing. All this by way of saying one of our passions was always something we called the Silver Summit. When we launched it, the Silver Summit was for people who were going to grow old with technology and how that could help you thrive and enjoy the benefits of the richest life possible through technology. We called it Silvers at the time because we didn't want to call it old people's, and we felt that Silvers was you'd arrived somewhere, and yes, it was your hair color too, and it made a lot of sense. The market's changed, we've learned a lot. We learned a lot just in this the panel that you listened to. And so we're announcing today, and it will be announced formally on Monday, but we're previewing it here, that we're changing the Silver Summit to Lifelong Tech. And Lifelong Tech is really going to give us a chance to explore these technologies that will enable people as they age to thrive through technology, whether that is personal emergency devices or enjoying a great vacation, enjoying lifelong learning, really taking advantage of the ability to age on your own terms with your own dignity, and what that means in the world of design, in the world of retail, in the world of bringing all of the stakeholders together to forward this idea of lifelong technology and the right technology for the right moment. So we want to just give you a little sneak preview. You can go to, what is it called, lifelongtechsummit.com now. Sign up for the newsletter. We hope to see a lot of you talking. It's an important conversation with as much opportunity as you could ever want. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and thanks for your support.